we're going to talk about why your headaches keep coming back. So, two, maybe y'all have noticed, I don't know if you have, that headaches have improved. If you had, did y'all have headaches? Struggle with them? Okay, you've seen pretty big change. Awesome. So y'all are discovering too what a lot of people need to hear, which is like how you can actually fix the issue versus just addressing the symptom. Because a lot of people, you know, and you've probably experienced this too, you experience symptoms, pain, and then, you know, you might feel better temporarily, maybe it goes away a little bit, and then it eventually comes back. So really getting down to the root cause of the issue. And I think a big thing, and this is important not just for headaches, but symptoms in general, they're not random. Like our body is intelligent, and really thinking of not just headaches, but any symptom as a signal from your body. Y'all ever had the check engine light come on in your car? It's like, oh no. And so if you think about it, what did you guys do when your check engine light came on?
Told my husband.
Okay, and then what did he do?
He went and checked it.
Yes, okay. Most people, like, we're going to investigate, like, why is the check engine light coming on? What's going wrong? Take it to the mechanic, and you expect them to diagnose the issue. What's the problem, and let's fix it. Unfortunately, in our modern healthcare system, most of the time, it's here's something to mask the symptom. Like, let's just get you feeling better and move on. And there are some really good doctors out there, too, that will actually dig in, investigate, let's do blood work, let's look at those type of things. And that's what we really need to be as physicians, is investigators. Look at the body as a whole and figure out, okay, why is it giving us this signal? What has gone off the rails and gone wrong? Because we're supposed to be able to heal and function and overcome things for the most part. So, and that's ultimately the thing, is most people don't have a headache problem. There is a cause. There's something going on that needs to be addressed and gotten better. And so even investigating and really paying attention to the signals that your body gives you, and headaches are just one of those things. Headaches, migraines, they're a signal from the body that there's a problem. So, and y'all can take this to your family members and friends that might be complaining of headaches, and tell them, okay, there's 3 reasons why you can have a headache. 1, can be emotional, so stress, and we've talked about that pretty at length, the effects that stress can have on the body. 2, chemical. So in chemical stressors can be your food, perfumes, things, and we'll talk about that. And then the last one is structural. And that is the big one that most people overlook getting addressed. So let's get into what's called the 10%. So emotional and chemical are only 10% of the reason why people get headaches. So for one, vision can be an issue. So if someone's having visual problems, that can cause disturbances, light sensitivities, and that can cause headaches. So we usually like to rule that out, and that's where going to an optometrist, getting your eyes evaluated can be beneficial. And then this one, food allergies. And y'all maybe heard of some of these ideas, like some people with migraines are really sensitive to chocolate. And so taking that into account. Certain cheeses, red wine. Now the interesting thing for those that have sensitivity to red wine, it's usually actually the chemicals that they put in the red wine versus the red wine itself. So if someone's noticing, oh man, I get headaches even after just like 1 glass of red wine, I usually recommend we'll try organic. And that usually makes the massive difference, because then they're removing a lot of the chemicals that they use to produce the wine and preserve it. And then also foods high in preservatives can create sensitivities. Something that I observed in myself that I figured out was contributing to some of my headaches was a sensitivity to eggs. So it sucked to discover that. But I was really trying to listen, and I try to listen to my body, you know, when I eat food, just in general, like, okay, how does X, Y, and Z make me feel? Do I feel energized? Do I feel good after I eat these things? Or am I noticing a trend where my body's reacting poorly? Because you can have allergies, and then you can have sensitivities, and they're going to react differently. So usually when people think, oh, you know, I have issues with foods, it's like I'm going to have a big reaction, anaphylactic shock, or a rash. But you can also have on the other side of that sensitivities, and that's where you might notice your digestive system doesn't process as well, causing gas and bloating, and then two, can cause fatigue, flush, and then headaches. So that's another thing too, like if you're like, man, my headaches are a lot better, but I still get them occasionally, evaluate it, like, all right, let me see how I feel after this meal, and pay attention to what's in the meal. And so I did that, and it's like, all right, I think eggs are causing me issues. So I eliminated them for about 5 years, and getting back to them.
Yeah.
Thankfully, my body is healing where I can eat them and consume them without getting headaches. But I think that's another important thing, to like really be in tune with your body and listening. So the food sensitivity side is not just the allergies, but the sensitivities. And that can, rear its head not just with headaches, but other things as well. So like I'm also sensitive to avocado. That also sucks. I love me a good guacamole, right? So occasionally I'll still splurge. But that also is a sensitivity, not an allergy. So those to consider. Any questions on the allergies, the food sensitivities? Okay, cool. Another one too that's not on this list is water. Do y'all know how much water you consume in a day?
120 ounces.
Great, perfect.
I drank 11 bottles of
Okay.
water.
And y'all don't have a water issue.
No.
But it's a consideration for people to look at, like how much water am I consuming? Because by the time maybe your body's giving you the cues you need to drink, well, you're already dehydrated, you're already behind the 8 ball, versus actively like making sure I'm consuming water. So I've been using an app to track mine and make sure.
I use Knobloch to track mine.
Yeah, and it helps a ton having those cues to drink more water. Okay, drink more water. How much have I had today? And tracking that side of things. And then these are some nutritional triggers. Some of the things we talked about. So food preservatives, wine, cheese, aspartame. So the artificial sweeteners are what they call neurotoxic. So they're neuroexcitatory and can set the nervous system off. And aspartame, sucralose, those things can actually cause headaches. So diet sodas usually contain one of those two ingredients. So I really recommend avoiding those things. Dehydration, that's another form of artificial sweetener. Interesting thing too, they've seen a correlation between like cholesterol lowering medications and people having headaches. So that's another consideration if someone is on a medication. Any type of medication too is important to listen. Like when you start taking the medication, do you start to notice other things? Because while it might help with this symptom, many people will notice other symptoms that it starts to generate. Lipitor is one of those things they've noticed for people can actually cause headaches. And the interesting thing is, you need cholesterol in your nervous system. And so those medications can actually start stripping out the cholesterol, not just the cholesterol that they're trying to reduce for the cardiovascular system, but it can affect the nervous system negatively and create other health issues and problems.
So what do you do if your cholesterol is so high that?
Well, so then that's where some people like maybe need it.
Because like I come off of it and done like a natural, and come off thinking that I could just make it on the natural, and no, my numbers went
through the roof.
Yeah, like it's genetic.
Yeah, and that's a consideration, is to look at, okay, maybe I'm one of those people that my body needs that. Do you feel like it's affected you negatively in taking it?
I don't know. Like my headaches are better, but it could be this. It could be taking that. It could be not drinking as much pop. Because I only do like 1 Coke Zero every now and then. So you know what I mean. So
Yes.
it could be a lot of things, but my numbers have come back down since I started taking it.
And again,
so it's like catch-20,
Yeah, I hear that. So cholesterol is produced by the body. It can also be produced in response to inflammation. So think of like high cholesterol numbers, especially what they call the bad cholesterol, which is LDL. LDL is your body's fire department. So if it's high, that's usually indicative that there's inflammation going on. So you can usually address it through dietary changes. But for some people, you have to make a little more extreme changes to really reduce the inflammation systemically. So that would be another thing to think about. Some of the nutrition we talked about previously, but you might benefit from a paleo diet. might benefit from keto. I don't know if you've ever done either of those things in the
I've done
past.
keto, not the paleo.
Okay. Did you notice benefit with keto with your numbers, or were you doing that in conjunction?
Yeah, I was doing it in conjunction.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Because that might be where, if you were like, okay, I want to get off of it, hit keto, and at the same time get off the medication,
And see what happens.
what that does for you. Yeah, in my experience, 95% of people, when they have high cholesterol and they want to get off the med, if they get on a plan like a keto, it 9 times out of 10 will actually reduce their numbers.
Okay.
But there are, 5 to
Yeah,
10% of people that it doesn't affect.
right.
So then there's other considerations. Yeah. Great. So, and then with headaches, so we talked about the emotional side and we talked about chemical. 90% of headaches are actually structural based. So that's where for us, a big part of what we focus on is the nervous system, looking at posture, looking at the spine, and addressing things from this side. And that's probably why y'all have seen the biggest impact when it comes to your health and your nervous system. So thinking about this too, real life, right? What do we spend most of our time doing? Sitting, working on our phones, looking down, watching TV, but also too old injuries. And so that's where we like to dig in on our health history and figure out, okay, are there things in your past that have affected your structure, have affected your spine and your nervous system? The big one, either y'all ever had car accidents? I don't remember. Never. Even minor fender benders. Falls off horses.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. Because those would
We
still.
used to play some football.
Yeah.
Okay. Because those things too, like, while a car accident is the big thing that we think about, if you're out in the field and you've gotten bucked off a horse, fallen off a bike, fallen out of a tree, sports, those things can have a big impact, just a car accident, on your spine and nervous system. And so we like to take a look at those things through x-ray and evaluating that side of things. Looking for concussions. So I know you guys got kids, grandkids.
Yeah.
So as they're playing sports too, women's sports is actually the highest incident of concussion. So that's a big consideration for us too. And most concussions actually happen in the youth,
Right.
not with adults. And the biggest thing that we found out through research is it actually happens in practice, not in the game. And so then, like, that almost gets glossed over because it's like, oh, is that practice? You're fine. Rub it,
Yeah.
Get over it, kid. It's like, well, we need to take that seriously. So I put this chart up here because I think it's telling and knowing, like, a lot of people come to the chiropractor for headaches or neck pain or lower back pain, but, and you've probably seen this too with your own health. The nervous system impacts all function. So that's where people will actually see improvements in other areas too, immune function. But the neck and the upper cervical area is the most important part. So that's where you have a lot of the nerves that come up in the head, the sinus mucous membranes. That's where also you have control centers for the brainstem. So that's like the sleep-wake cycle. That's your immune response. That's where your sympathetic nervous system is located. Different things like that. So that pattern probably sounds familiar. And that's what the cycle that we really try to break is pain, pill, repeat, rinse and repeat. Well, let's get why the pain is there, break the cycle, get you off the pills, and get your body healthy. Because relief doesn't mean resolution, right? So, but I think this is an important statement. What if your body isn't falling apart? It's adapting. And so that's where too, really trying to continually be in tune. And I think y'all have done a great job with this. It's like being in tune, figuring out, okay, what's my body trying to tell me? What is it trying to adapt from and overcome? Importance to y'all. I did want to, now, do you feel like your headaches, are you still struggling with them some?
Yeah, but they're probably 80% better.
Okay,
Like I've had headaches my whole life.
yeah.
Migraines, like you name it.
Okay, so this is a drastic change for you.
Yes, yes,
That's awesome.
yes.
And how about yourself?
Yeah, I haven't had a bad headache in 6 months or so.
Okay, awesome. Well, one of the things that we might want to consider if we're still having, about 20%, still having some residual issues, would be doing an upper cervical evaluation on you. So I think we can get that set up for a subsequent visit. Just check, so the atlas, which is the very top bone in the neck, and it's what your skull sits on, that bone has a lot of involvement for like head rotation. And then it sits on what's called C2, which is the atlas. So y'all in Greek mythology have heard of Axis. He's the guy that held the world up, right? Your head, your literal world. So this area can be injured in all different types of whiplash injuries, falls, landing hard, and depending on the mechanism of injury, we can actually get what's called instability. And that's where the upper cervical area it free floats almost, where the bones have a certain amount they're supposed to move, and then there's an amount that can be excessive. And that excessive motion with your structure can cause irritation. So for some people, that's a consideration too that we have to try and help eliminate. So, especially in your case, we'll get that next time. And what we do, like we've done a motion study on your neck, I think, forward, and found some stuff and worked on that. But then the side motion is the next layer that we need to do. So, putting the spine under stress, looking at structure, like we've done, what does it look like static when you're just standing? And then let's put it through movement. So motioning the spine is another layer to look at, all right, are there areas that are stuck? Because we need full movement of the spine. But then we also want to evaluate, is there too much movement? And the too much movement can also be a problem as well. And another layer that we like to look at, especially if someone is dealing with headaches, maybe they've gotten better, but there's still some residuals. Because that instability, what can happen is it creates another type of stress that just in life, and just even moving your neck, doing work, having fun, that can create irritation. And I'm speaking from personal experience. Because this is an issue that I have. Now the unfortunate part, when you have instability, and I tell this to all patients, when we find instability, that unfortunately is a lifelong diagnosis. And so the body, usually then that means the support structures have had tears, where you no longer have those connective tissues supporting the spine, and that creates a permanent, basically, disability. So usually though, there's a lot you can do to help minimize the effects of that, but knowing that it's going to create kind of some lifelong challenge. So that's where too, having regular care can help keep that at bay or minimize the effects of it. Yeah, so I'll make sure we get you set up as well. Do you feel like you want to have us take a look?
I guess if you need me to.
Do I need you to? No. No. I mean, if you feel like you're doing, like your headaches are really stable, or
I haven't had to take the Tylenol 3 since 2 months ago.
fantastic. Praise God.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
I mean, since it's probably been 2 months since I've had one.
Great.
And no headaches.
Fantastic.
So.
And you probably don't have this issue.
No.
And that's where, like, looking at all aspects of structure, because 90% of why people get headaches or migraines is going to come from some structural
Mine is emotional
problem.
when I get a really bad headache.
Okay. Yeah. And that's an obvious
And
cause.
I know when I'm doing it, so I control it.
Right? And yeah, you figure out how to help manage and help your body cope and adapt to those things. So the big thing, and you guys, I think, have discovered this, like, you're not broken. Your body has the ability to heal. We just need to figure out how we can go in and correct it. So even looking at it, though, I would encourage y'all to consider some of the chemical side of things too. Because just evaluating, what my body is allergic to, but also then the sensitivity side. And that's the side that I think a lot of people overlook when it comes to their health. We get hyper-focused on what should I eat, what should I not, like what is good.
Yeah.
Like avocado is a superfood.
Yeah.
And yet my body is like, no, that's not good for me. And so evaluating from the food aspect, like what is it actually beneficial for my body, because we're all unique. So while research might say this is a superfood and this is really good for you, you might not process it very well, and then create some problems. It might create headaches. So that'd be an area, an aspect, and then the structural side and taking a deeper look would be beneficial. So, any questions?
I think so.
Okay, was that helpful?
Very helpful.
Okay, great. Yeah, and, like we've been doing with all these, you can always go back and watch. But if you got family members that you know have been kind of struggling with headaches or migraines, have them watch this video. We post them, on Facebook, so they're live, and then I try to update them, put transcripts in, all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
so they're easier to follow along and watch. But yeah,
No, all your classes are good.
Yeah.
They're all beneficial.
Very.
great. Now, next class, you get Dr. Alex.
Okay.
He's gonna bring the heat, right, Doc?
That's right. We'll bring the heat.
Okay, bring the heat. What are you talking about? Stress. Adjusting your stress.
I need this, I need that one.
That's right. Would be beneficial. Cool. Well, thanks y'all for coming out.
You bet. Appreciate you
Yeah.
doing it.
Y'all are awesome.
You're doing it for us.
Yes, 100%.